Look at these little doodads. Lovely little type artifacts here, there, and everywhere. And they're all running off just one type layer. It's mega, right? I'm going to show you some examples and then how to do it in Photoshop. It is dead easy. Once you start playing with it, big old chef's kiss from me. Really cool. So let's hop in. So there's a few little examples to kind of get the juices flowing, and I'll share a link to this in the description, a little read only, so you can have a little look around. But this is just in its simplest form, really. It's just like a type layer, duplicate around. Whoa, type duplicators. Absolutely heaps in this example. So you can really just like populate the whole page, and this is just running off one type layer that you can change. And something interesting happened when you mock it up on clothes, but quite interesting to see on other stuff, and it works with vectors as well. So this is a little mock-up of like a rubber stamp on a postage stamp, quite interesting. And then this is something I've been using in these prints. This is the digital riso with a planter, make it real riso print, but you know, starting off with this verse of a song and then duplicating it over to like get in the throat and like choke up this character, because there's a line in there where she chokes on the word hello. So it's just like about choking on words and arty-farty bollocks. But this technique takes this one verse, it's that paragraph, and duplicates it around. So if I typed it in wrong or want to change the font or whatever, I can change that and it'll change all of the text up here. Even if it's not visible, it's still cool to know you can affect one layer and it ripple through and affect everything else. And a couple more examples. This is just two type layers, but spread everywhere with some effects on it. So link to this in the description, and let's hop into Photoshop and I'll show you exactly how to make it. Here we are in Photoshop with a big scary blank document. And I'm just going to pop in type layer. And we'll use our good old mate, Lorem Ipsum, to start off with, because why not? He's a good egg. So what this is doing is basically just using drop shadows. And I'll show you, if we go down to the bottom here, to the little FX icon, just click on that, and then click on drop shadow, bottom of the list. Now, usually, let's reset this to default. It does something like this. It adds a little drop shadow, a little blurry drop shadow, and that's fine, but not for this. With this effect, what we're going to do is, if we move the distance, we'll see it's actually moving the shadow away from the original layer. And this is what we're going to play with, because instead of it being this soft blurry thing, what we can do is bring the size all the way down, and we'll see that we now have a crisp duplication of our type, but it's faded. And it's faded because our opacity by default is set to 35%. If we just crank that sucker all the way up, and now we have a duplicate of our type. And that's basically it. But there's a little more nuance to that. What we can do in more recent versions of Photoshop is you can add up to 10 copies of this. So I can click the little plus icon, and then with this one, I can just change distance. And we'll see both of these next to the angle. There's a little tick box that says use global light. And that means that when you affect the light on one, it affects it on all of them. And that can be pretty cool. That can have some nice effects. If you add loads of these, then we can go in and change the angle of them. But what's nice if we want these in different locations on the page is if we actually uncheck that box on both of them, then not only can we change the angle independently on these different copies, but we can also just put our mouse onto the artboard itself and just click and drag. For each of these instances, I can just click and drag and just do it somewhere random. I can add another copy, select that, drag it somewhere random, another copy, drag it somewhere random. And you'll see that when I click, I don't have to click on the copy itself. I just click anywhere. You know, I've clicked bottom left here, thinking that's where it was, and it's actually moving the copy, which is top right. I would just click and move these, drag them around. You know, it doesn't really matter where they go. And you'll see that as we go down this, it will max out at 10 copies. And the actual plus icon will grey out. See here, we've got no options to add any more copies. But that's all right. We'll do okay. Now, it's pretty cool, because what we can do is we can go into this type layer, we can change things, put, and it's because they're just copies of that original layer, they're shadows, they're pretty weird looking shadows. This is it. This is where brain starts to fizz, starts to have a little tickle and a little play with it, because we have one little layer to worry about. So what I used to do was just get one layer and hit Alt and drag it around and get these copies. And that's fine. But, if I've made a spelling mistake, which I will, and I have, and I continue to do all the time, I can't spell for toffee, I just have to change it. I'd have to change it in every single one. Oh, right, okay. That's okay. Now what? Do I copy and paste that? Do I go in and have to go into each one of these? And it's a faff. Right. Delete all those. Go back to our version with these drop shadows. Go in. Change one. We'll see it change all around that document. This is it, right? Simplicity. Get everything down to one layer if we can, and we're absolutely smashed it. I had some examples before that had them everywhere, and you'll see that this is limited to just 10. So, to get more, obviously you're going to pop it into a group, hit Control or Command G, and I can just do the same thing. I can add more drop shadows. I'm actually going to cheat here and right-click on the little FX icon and do Copy Layer Style, then select our group, right-click, paste. Ooh. Now, a little bit mad, and you can start to see some repeat patterns happening, because it's basically taking that original layer with all of its copies and it's copying them everywhere now, but in the same place. So it might get some little kind of little copied areas that just look quite distinctive. So we can go into this by just double clicking on any of these drop shadows, and I'm just going to go down the list here, just click and drag. And you see what I mean? Its drop shadow is now 10 copies of the original, right? So it's getting a little bit out of hand now. We've got 100 copies, 10 times 10. Is that the right maths? I think it is. So, whatever. Look at this. We've got absolutely heaps. And the beauty of this is, go back to our original type layer, double click on it, get old Lorem Ipsum back in there. He's our mate after all. This obviously gets me very physically excited. It's really fun. There's a few caveats, a few things that you can't do with it. What you'll find is, if the original type had a colour, we'll see that it's not getting carried through with the drop shadows, because when you apply the drop shadow, each instance has its own colour. So you can go through and change these. That could be something interesting. A bit laborious, and it's just going to be a lot of clicking and a bit of a pain. What I would do instead is I would take however many groups we have stacked, because we could do this again. We could put this into another group and add more drop shadows. I'm going to stop at 100. Let's have some restraint. But I'm going to grab this and I'm going to pop this into another group. And I'm going to name this just so we can keep track of it. I'm going to call this Colour Overlay. See, spelled that badly. We're going to roll with it. What I'm going to do is go down to the bottom here, to our little adjustment layers, and select Solid Colour. Just select Colour, for example. And that's actually going to pop it in the group that we just created. What we want to do is pop it just above, and then hit Alt or Option and hover our mouse in between, and it will show a little clipping mask icon. Or we can just right click on it and do Create Clipping Mask. Now we have a colour on all of those copies. It's the same colour. And we can do that again with a pattern. Got some of these nice kind of little print overlay pattern things. Click that to it. Set that to something hard light. So we're starting to get a little bit of colour breakup in there. Lovely stuff. Gradients could work. Images could work. More type. You could clip that onto it. Whoa, getting a little bit meta now. But this is lovely. And if you're aware of the site and kind of other tools that we have, I'm just going to group this still under the colour overlay so it affects everything. Go into my styles and actually select one of the trashed type styles. Look at this. Look at that. It's chaos. Oh, right. I love this, clearly. Mental, right? Absolute madness. And the beauty of this, I keep going back to it, but you've got all of this, and it's just one type layer. Just one. And like I said, we can change fonts, we can change sizes, and the drop shadows are a set distance. So something really interesting happens when we change the scale. The actual shadows don't move out with it. They're not fixed to it. So we can get even more overlap if we're like this. We're starting to get type as a bit of a textural element. And it's not legible anymore. And that's fine. I can barely read. This is nice. This is how I like to see type. Completely illegible. Just putting in from the future, a very grey, miserable future, because I spoke about doing it with vectors, but didn't show you. It's the exact same process, just instead of type, you'll have a vector layer. But let me just show you what I mean. Basically, exact same technique. Instead of the type layer, I've got just vector smart object, which is great because it means I can go back into Illustrator and still kind of play with it. And it's in a group with these drop shadows. Something quite nice is you can just duplicate it and change the angle of that other version and move that somewhere. If we're kind of emulating this printed and stamped effect, then we can change the angles on some of them. And just like before, this vector came in 100% black, but I've just added a color overlay to it and some paper textures because I'm a man obsessed. But it's got a lovely little look to it, and it's just so lovely because you can just add one thing, whether it's type and you can change it, or vectors, you pop them in, and they just go everywhere without having heaps of layers. You really, this looks a little bit confusing because we've kind of got groups and groups and groups, but realistically, it's 2 layers. And it looked fine when it was just one. So, it's just one vector object, and we've straight away got that look of a multiple printed kind of thing. Doesn't work with images because if you put them in like this, you'll see that it takes the whole shape and uses that as its drop shadow. So we've just got loads of black rectangles. So if you're using images and you want to duplicate it, you'll just have to duplicate it as normal and just kind of alt drag, copy it around and stuff like that. But for anything that doesn't have any internal details, so like vectors, type, logos with no kind of 2-color internals or anything, exquisite. Dead easy. And you can add all your little print effects and all these doodads and whatever you want on top. You're off to the races. Duplicate everything. Quite a nice way to quickly affect all of these copies at once is just to right click on the effects icon, do scale effect. This will bring up this little window. And I've just got, you can click in here and drag around, and it basically scales in and out from our original type there. So I like to just click in this box and then use my mouse wheel and literally just rolling up and down my mouse. And they're doing this. They're growing in and out of it. So we can have that really tight, or we can blow this up and have this across the whole page. So they become little lost artifacts and elements around our page. And that's just a quick way of, when we're in the original and we're dragging them around and setting them, we can do that once. And then if we want to quickly change the look of it, we just right click, scale effects, and we can crank that down, or we can crank that all the way up and get them completely off the page. But yeah, it's a really fun way of just playing with them. I'll share a few of these styles in a file in the description so you can play with them and just have fun with it. Use this as an excuse to just get scrappy, create cool looking stuff with a couple of clicks, and keep everything in one layer if you can. Editable, you're not ruining anything and like baking anything in, and just have a hoot with it, man. Just play, break things, get it right, get it wrong, whatever. Have fun.